And senior executive editor of Bloomberg Opinion, and Molly Jong-Fast, special correspondent with Vanity Fair, author and host of the Fast Politics podcast, both of whom are MSNBC political analysts. We're grateful for that. Tim, MAG is literally yelling about this, and you've written books about Trump. Are you surprised he's having such a tough time reining in this discontent?
I'm not surprised he's having a hard time reining it in, Alex, because when you animate a political movement through conspiracy theories, as Trump has done, and when you yourself have trafficked in conspiracy theories for decades. I mean, this is the same man who peddled birtherism around Barack Obama, helped foment the Benghazi conspiracy around Hillary Clinton, and of course, her deleted emails, et cetera, et cetera. And the same people who are turning on him now about the Epstein quote unquote files are the same people he surfed on top of when this was first put out there as a conspiracy. And so when you try to reap the whirlwind of conspiracy theories, they can turn back upon you. And what's happening now is there are these fissures within the MAGA movement around this particularly weird issue, as they are prone to embrace. And they're turning on one another. And conspiracy theories can't be put back in a bottle.
Yeah.
Once you put them out there, often there's very little you can do to rein people in because they assume de facto that you're still hiding things, no matter how much you release. It's a slippery slope with no bottom. Yeah. And he's on that now. So the issue now is someone going to put, some braces beneath his feet to stop him from sliding, or is it going to be endless?
Let's have a quick sample here of MAGA supporters calling into conservative talk shows this week. Watch this.
We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. And yet he still talks about the 2020 election fraud. He talks about the Hunter Biden laptop.
What about justice for these young ladies who were trafficked? What about their justice?
These Epstein files, we were told that there was going to be released. And the fact that it's suddenly gone away and he's trying to gaslight us is like a punch in the gut to MAGA.
I'm concerned about being able to trust Donald Trump to keep his word.
Well, Molly, Trump is frantically tweeting, filing lawsuits, pushing to unseal transcripts, but reports are emerging detailing his frustration with the MAGA revolt and Pam Bondi's role in it. Is this mess beyond his control, at least for now?
Yeah, and I also think it's pretty interesting that we've seen Trump sort of, he really has been out of step with his base. I mean, you have to remember, these are people who have made huge sacrifices for Trump, right? They have sort of voted in spite of their best interests in a lot of ways, right? Like the rural healthcare stuff, the closing hospitals. This is going to affect them. They have had this kind of supernatural faith in Trump, in this belief that Trump was going to do something amazing. And that was because he was always promising it. He was making these sort of very pie in the sky promises. And this is something where he said, I'm going to, this conspiracy, he had really fed the flames of it for a long time, and so had other MAGAs. So the idea was that he was going to, sort of solve this tragedy in a way. And what we've seen is, instead of saying, sometimes there are, instead of like backing the base off quietly and saying, sometimes there aren't answers for things, he basically just sort of was like, why are you guys so upset about this? Which I think really compounded his problem. And now it's sort of like a freight train. I mean, what's so important about this story is that it's not us. It's not the sort of the mainstream media going like, oh, this is it. This is a bridge too far. It's his people. Yeah. It's the people for whom everything else has not been a deal breaker. Those people are the ones who are really affected by this. And I think that this is the first time, certainly in this second Trump administration or in the first, where we've really seen this schism in the base like this.
Yeah. Tim, speaking of the first, his former chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, has said, yeah, Trump's in the files. There are a lot of people in the files. So when you have that kind of endorsement, and he also talks about the word list and how that is, used very loosely. ABC reports the FBI evidence, just want to run through it quickly, 40 computers, storage drives, recording devices, photographs, travel logs, employee lists, and massage tables, lest we forget that. So if this Trump-Epstein friendship is not secret, does it suggest there is something else being hidden or protected here?
Well, I think all of us should resist, actually, the temptation to assume that. I think Trump's own actions, however, are quizzical, because if he had absolutely nothing to hide, he could, in theory, get more information released than using this fig leaf of the release of grand jury testimony, which is going to have to be redacted. It's a limited window onto what happened. It may only involve testimony from Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein himself. So it's a limited window, and it's going to take a long time for it to come out. But I think what Mick Mulvaney said is a sort of practical assessment that, Epstein had a black book with addresses and names and phone numbers of people he intersected with. And he intersected as a financier and a networker with lots of people who didn't have any intersection with sexual predation and little girls and the kind of grotesqueries Epstein was involved with. I think Trump's relationship is deeper than most people, however. They were friends in Palm Beach. Donald told me when we were in Palm Beach in 2005, he had just purchased a house. He was in a bidding war with Epstein for it. And he was bragging to me that he beat Epstein to the finish line in that house, but he still regarded Epstein as a very good friend and liked seeing him around Mar-a-Lago. They had a friendship that went beyond just business networking.
Yeah, for sure. And just your reaction to this, Molly, as well. And I should say, Jeffrey Epstein was known to have said that Donald Trump was his best friend.
Yeah. Look, Trump never had to engage in these conspiracy theories. He never had to engage in QAnon or to sort of, make, quiet overtures towards it. He never had to do any of this, right? He used this as a tool to get the base riled up and excited. And, if he had been friends with a guy who had these huge files, perhaps this would not have been the move. He sort of painted himself into a corner. And again, these people are right to be, this is, he promised he was going to do one thing and now he's changed his course. Again, just the mere fact that there are so many other promises would be obviously more important to their daily life, like closing their hospitals. But this certainly is, whatever breaks the fever, I think, is still important.
Okay. Guys, stay with me because we're going to talk about that.